Hello. So today I'm going to talk about something maybe a little bit different. Obviously, still totally kind of spiritually inclined. But last weekend I went on a retreat to Ireland for a shamanic ayahuasca ceremony. So if you don't know what ayahuasca is, it's a psychedelic drink which has been used kind of around the Amazon basin for over 1,000 years with indigenous people. They consider drinking this compound drink to connect you with spirit, and it's been used for a lot of different reasons, but tends to be a lot of people who have been through trauma, who are looking for some kind of healing, and it's actually having amazing results with people. So it was something I heard of quite a few years ago and then didn't think about it again. It was very strange how it happened. I actually thought about it again and it just kind of showed up on my feed, and I booked a way to go on this retreat. Obviously, I realised my true nature a year ago. I had the Kundalini awakening, so I've been very much on a spiritual path this year. In fact, this year has been a completely different way of life for me. It's completely different. Dropping the idea of the person that I thought I was before and living as my true nature. So I didn't really know what to expect. It's a drink. It's made of a vine and leaves. It's a shamanic ceremony, so there was drums, there was incense, there was all of this stuff, and I drank it. And it's a psychedelic, so I saw heavy visuals made out of plants, animals swirling together to make all of this kind of sacred geometry. It was an incredible experience, but I lay and I just watched these visuals for a long time. Now, within the room, they say not to get involved with anybody else that's going on. Everybody's on their own journey. It's giving everybody what they need. So I was told that if you see somebody crying, you don't try and console them, you stay in your own process. So there's a lot of things going on around the room as people have ingested the drink and the medicine, as we're calling it, and they're having their own experiences. With mine, I lay and I saw a lot of kind of visuals for a while, but then I had this overwhelming kind of feeling that I was with a presence. I was with a strong female presence, and she was really, really strong is the best way I can describe it. Strong, but so kind. I just had this feeling that I was just being kind of nurtured and looked after. And it's not like you hear something speaking to you. I didn't hear something speaking to me, but something said, "You're here to let go." And I didn't really know what that meant. I lay for a while longer, and then I kind of had this idea of something saying to me, "Open your eyes." So I've been laid with my eyes closed. I opened my eyes, and the feeling of love, my heart chakra, it was like a sonic boom. It was like boom. I felt like my heart energy went for miles. That's how it felt. Then I felt, again, whatever this thing is that I felt like it was speaking to me, or maybe I was speaking to myself, said, "Love them." And I looked around the room at all of the different people. Some were crying, some were laughing, some were laid with their eyes closed, some were dancing. And this feeling of love, just the strongest love. And the best way I can describe it was exactly how I felt when I self-realised. That it was almost like reliving my self-realisation, that moment of realisation. And I was looking at the people around me, and it was like I was beaming love at them. I was just the strongest love feeling. It was like I was looking at my children, or just at a different aspect of me. It was just, they were so familiar. Obviously, I'd only just met them that day, but the love that was beaming out of me towards them. And then I kind of realised what was going on. So when I realized my true nature a year ago, I was in a relationship. I was very much still playing the role of Paul, and even though this happened to me afterwards, and I didn't associate myself with Paul anymore, and I was trying to let go of all that kind of programming that Paul had, the ideas, the beliefs, the things that were limiting that character of Paul, I was very much trying to let go of. But because of my situation, now I had a partner who was really, really understanding. So it wasn't even like that, but I still put myself back in a small box somehow afterwards. Because what had happened to me was so mind-blowing. It changed everything upside down. It changed the way I thought about everything, the way I thought about the world, the way I thought about everything I believed before. But somehow, because of the job I was in, a teacher, and being in the relationship, I realized I'd started to worry more about how it was affecting other people and how other people were relating to my new way of being. And unconsciously, that had put me back into a little bit of a box. I wasn't letting these new realizations, this new way of being, all of these new things that I just understood so effortlessly, it's almost like I wasn't letting it have its full potential. If you'd have asked me this 2 weeks ago, I wouldn't have understood that. Although me and my partner broke up, I left the job. It was like I knew that needed to happen somehow, but I didn't understand why. So I'm having this experience, just this incredible love, this pure bliss. My heart felt like it was literally just radiating out. And I realised that I'd felt this a year ago, but then I'd kind of jumped back into, is my partner okay with this? I'm so different. I don't really think about things the way that I was a completely different person to what everybody who had known me before knew. And I suppose in a way, I thought to myself, I better curb this, I better somehow contain it for the sake of everybody else, because I felt fine with it, but I knew that it was a lot for everybody else to be dealing with. So if you'd have asked me this, God, even a month ago, a couple of months ago when we broke up, I wouldn't have known that was the reason. But I felt like having this experience, and they say ayahuasca gives you what you need. For every single person around that room, some people were there with all kinds of really, 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 really awful trauma. But they said this experience, this connecting to the spirit through this experience gives you exactly what you need. And that was certainly my case. I feel like over this last year, I'd let go of a lot of Paul's stuff, all of Paul's heavy stuff. So it wasn't like I was going there with trauma, but I was going there for some kind of clarity. I was going there for some direction, and I just received it. And it took me right back to that point a year ago. It was almost like it replayed it. Of course, I didn't realise my true nature again, because I already knew that. There was never any doubt of that. But it gave me that feeling of just being utter love. And I had a feeling like it was saying, that's why you're here. That's why you're here, to love them. And by them, I knew it wasn't just the people in front of me. I just knew it was, every single other self in the world. It was just like, love them, that's why you came here. And I was crying, but I was crying through this pure bliss and also kind of laughing. And that's exactly what I was like on the day that I self-realised. I was crying and I was laughing at the same time. But just this love that was in me, and that I felt that I could give. I knew it was unlimited. And so the experience was really, really, it was life-changing in the way that it put me right back to where I was a year ago when I realised my true nature. But it put me back there now that my physical experience has changed somewhat. I've left my job, a job I wasn't happy in. I've left a relationship which I've been in for 12 years, which is still so much love there, but the relationship had changed. It had become more of a friendship. So really I just created all of this space in this physical experience, in my physical experience. I created all of this space, and I didn't really understand why, but as ever, this experience is supremely creative. Everything is happening exactly as it should, even though it looks chaotic, even though it looks like, there's no rhyme, there's no reason to it. Everything, like a clockwork machine, everything is turning so intricately and so perfectly that everything is always in line when it should be. And I knew that from realization, but just having this experience again really, really, in such a dramatic way, brought it back into my consciousness just so clearly. So this goes on for hours. I think it went on till about 4 o'clock in the morning. I went to sleep. Wake up the next day, and I'm like, just this feeling of just love, this feeling of purpose, really, of the people around me. How can I serve? How can I love you? It was just so strong in me. So we go through that day. Through that day, I'm speaking to other people who've been through, horrific child abuse. Maybe someone had a really awful life-changing accident, which they were recuperating from. And every single person is saying the same thing. They felt guided, they felt loved, but it was taking them to what they needed to see. So some of them were sitting there crying all night. They were watching their own child abuse. Again, they were reliving it, but they were reliving it with this loving force around them. And I can only equate this loving force to our true nature. They were saying they were seeing their abuse through the eyes of their abuser, and they were sobbing, crying. But the next day, they just had this clarity, and like something had been lifted from them. So this experience, which has been available for over 1,000 years in the Amazon, is healing people. I've got no doubt of that. Now, I don't think it's ready for you until you're ready for it. Do you know what I mean? I don't think it's something your friend could say, oh, I did this and I think you should do it. And if you weren't ready, I don't think, it's for you. But all of these people felt called. It had come to them all in such strange little synchronistic ways. Everybody from all different walks of life, it wasn't just like this was just a room full of hippies or full of spiritual people. It wasn't at all. If you'd took a picture of the room, you wouldn't know why all these people were there, because it was such a cross-section of society, ages, race, types of people. It was such a mix. But from every person I spoke to, they felt like they got exactly what they need. So it was mind-blowing. So the next night, same thing happens again. We have the ceremony again. So I drank the drink, and again, straight away, I started seeing the visuals. Except this time, the visuals, even though they were made up of plants and animals and leaves and vines and insects, but they were becoming all of this such intricate geometric shapes, were formed kind of like beings, kind of like figures. And it was like they were stood in a circle and they were welcoming me into this circle. And just again, the feeling of love, the feeling of like utter peace, of utter well-being was there. And I kind of stood in this state for a while, and then I thought, I think I'm supposed to be asking a question. So I said, I've had a lot of change in my life, and I'm looking for some direction. And again, this voice, which isn't a voice, just this knowing that comes to you, said, the work that you came here to do, you did last night. It said, remember, don't go back to sleep. Don't go back to sleep. Remember what you're here to do. You're here to love. And I knew it. Every cell in my body knew it. And it was just, that's what it kept on repeating to me, was remember. I asked the question about a job. What should I be doing next? It told me I was working on something which I was worried about failure with, and not to be worried about it. It was like telling me, if you knew the love that you had, if you knew the support that you had out of this physical experience, you would never worry about a thing again. But it was like, you need to roll the ball. You need to roll the ball. Where the ball ends up, we will take care of. That's the way it felt to me. but you need to roll the ball. You need to make an intention. You need to set something into motion. So I actually, in the lead up to self-realisation, a lot of strange things were happening for me. I was waking up in the middle of the night. I was writing poems. I'd never wrote poetry before. In fact, Paul, as a character, was dyslexic, so I was using words that Paul didn't even know. And I also wrote a full children's book in about 6 weeks. And I hadn't realised my true nature then, so I didn't know why these strange things were happening, but I knew that something was happening for me. My creativity was running wild. I was always a creative person. I was an art teacher, I was always painting and drawing. But this writing was just coming through me. And if you'd asked me at the time, I was actually saying at the time, I don't feel like I've written this. But I didn't understand, I wasn't a spiritual person before this happened to me. I didn't understand what else it could have been. So the children's book that I wrote was a fantasy children's book, and I just thought it was a story. And then after I realised, I looked back at it and I was like, this is telling the story of waking up to your true nature, but kind of in an allegorical sense. Very much about the world not being real, about you having lots of versions of yourself, about waking up to see like this, how the world really is. So it was just so strange how these things were happening. The poems that I were writing, even though they were all completely different, were all talking about kind of a becoming or a transformation. So if you'd have asked me at the time, I wouldn't have put the dots together. I just didn't have a clue. But since my realisation, I looked at it and I was like, I was telling myself what was going to happen. I remember there's a part of one of the poems that always sticks in my head, and some of that was, remember, each silent thing sings that you are it all, you are everything. And I don't know where that came from. I don't know. And I woke up and I wrote it at 4 o'clock in the morning, by the way. My partner used to get out of bed and come looking for me, and I'd be sitting at the dining table scribbling down these things because it was just in me. I'd wake up and it would just be in me. So very similar with the book. This is now, knocking on for maybe 2 years. This book's been written and I didn't do anything with it because there was a fear inside me of, I can't publish this book. I'm going to fail. A fear of failure, a fear of rejection. And so I haven't done anything with it, even though it's there, even though everyone who's read it said this is amazing. I've not done anything with it. So during this experience, I felt like it was like, you've been given this, like, publish it, like, this could be your life if that's what you want your life to be. Anything can be your life, though. It was like, you make the choice, though. But it was like, but if you don't want to go back to a normal 9-to-5 job, then this can be your life. That's just how I felt with it. So I really felt like it gave me that kind of push for me to see the fear that I was feeling, but not realise that I was feeling, because fear is like that, isn't it? It's insidious. It's sly. Fear sometimes masquerades as love. Fear masquerades as kind of, defensiveness or protection or fear. It was just fear. I was really, really petrified to try and put myself out there with this thing that I'd made because I was terrified of rejection and I was terrified of failure. So it showed me all of that. Other than that, I got this feeling, if you want to go to sleep, your work's done here. So I went to sleep, probably quite early on in the ceremony. The next day, we wake up again, the things I'm hearing from the people around me of just how they feel like they've been able to let go, how they feel like they're healing from all of these really, really heavy traumatic experiences was just incredible. So I've come back now to, obviously, my own life, really with just a renewed purpose, a renewed vigour, a sense of just being held, of being protected, of nothing can go wrong. It's just really, really this feeling. And I've realised my true nature for a year, and I've felt this utter peace, I've felt this utter love. But actually it's not even took it to a new level, it's stripped it back to what it was the day that it happened. The day that it happened, before I felt like I needed to play the character again in work, before I needed to play that character again in my relationship, before I needed to play small for the people around me, because what had gone on around me, to me, what I'd realised, what I'd remembered, was so vast, was so mind-blowing that I didn't want to upset anybody with it. And it's so strange, but I had done that to a degree, and I didn't realise that I'd done that, because inside me I was still feeling that love, I was still feeling that peace, but I was still feeling very much like the little pattern that my life was in, the little track that I was on, could be nothing else than that, and it could be anything. It could be anything. So quite a different video for me today, but it was something I felt like I really wanted to share. First of all, because, you know, how it kind of has given me like such clarity on my purpose. And I've been making these videos, and you know, you make these videos and you don't know what's going to happen with them. You don't know if anybody's going to watch them, if anybody's even going to care. But it doesn't matter, because I know I'm telling the truth. And I know that when people hear the truth, they hear it as the truth. I was actually speaking to one of my friends, Piana, to another self-realised person I've met through David Bingham. And we've struck up a really, really beautiful friendship. And she said to me, I love watching your videos, she said, but she said, don't take this the wrong way, it's not about what you say. And I knew exactly what she meant. Because, see, if you want to watch videos where people can talk to you about, I don't know, non-duality through like a Vedic perspective and all the Indian traditions and the koshas and this, that and the other, then Buddhism and all of these things which all tie into this, then there's a million people making videos like that who are much more knowledgeable about it than me. I don't have that knowledge. I haven't been called to read all these books, to read all of that. If you want to, you know, hear like poetically, like people talk about non-duality and about self-realisation, like, you know, I listen to people like Rupert Spira, I listen, you know, Eckhart Tolle, they're doing that so perfectly. That box is taken. And I was like, but why do I feel so compelled to share then? And I realised it's not about the words that I'm saying. It's an energetic offering. And that's what my friend said. She said, when I listen to your videos, she said, I feel love. She said, I feel seen. I feel your kindness. And that's exactly what I've realised I'm making these videos for. If you'd have asked me before, maybe I wouldn't have known that. But I'm not really bothered about whether you hear me. I'm bothered about whether you feel me. Do you feel what I'm feeling? Do you feel this love? And does it give you something inside that sparks something in you to let you know that you are the same thing? You are this love that I'm trying to project out in these videos is exactly what you are too. And so in that way, it's, you know, it's an energetic like kind of exchange, and hopefully the words do resonate in some way. Hopefully I'm not just talking nonsense, but I really, really hope that, because my intention of sharing these is that you feel something, is that you really, really feel it. Because understanding something conceptually is one thing. You can listen to the words and you can understand it conceptually, you know, but feeling something, it's a completely different level of understanding. It's a completely different level of connection. And really, that's my intention for making these. So I hope that that's something that, if you're watching this, that you get from these videos. You go, I'll give you something to think about there, didn't I? So thanks very much for listening, and I love you. Bye bye.